imports were significantly impacting the price anyways with the safeguard duty. So removing this should not have a material effect on our local cement producing companies.
All right. And we have this as well from Lichu Property Consultants. They did have a third quarter briefing yesterday. We wanted to share the highlights for the office space. And if we may go over that slide, the office space market, at least year to date, demand has now surpassed full year 2021 by 27% and full year 2020 by 78%, and we have 3 more months to go. So at least you're seeing a bit of a recovery. For the third quarter, leasing demand is now up 240%. Year on year. That is the largest quarter recorded since the start of the pandemic in 2020. And of course, as expected, the IT BPM sector, the BPOs, the call centers, continue to drive office demand, accounting for 777,000 square meters, or about 48% of demand from first quarter of 2020 up to this year. Vacancies across Metro Manila remain at 18%, though still elevated, and they're expecting full year demand to hover around 750 to 800,000 square meters, given the robust pipeline of live requirements. Adrian, just very quickly, all of these property developers and those that offered REITs that depend on rental income from these properties, how are they looking at this point, considering valuation and whether they can deliver the projected yields?
Well, actually, this is good news considering how bearish the market has been on REITs. If you take a look at the valuation of REITs, the median for 2023 div yield is already 8.4%. This is significantly higher than when they first issued it 1 to 2 years ago, around 5 to 6% dividend yield. So we think there could be some upside to REIT companies considering that the demand is starting to be taken up by BPOs. What we have to worry about is what rates or what price per square meters is this new rental space being occupied at. So we think for the foreseeable future, we think that the occupancy rate for REITs, considering their high quality grade AAA class REIT buildings, we think that the occupancy rate should not drop significantly. In fact, it should pick up in the near future. What we have to see is what price are they actually being able to lease out these properties.
All right. That's a great observation there. And finally, we have this just in, Excelum Resources, which manufactures coconut products. ESG, they're actually boosting their ESG efforts. They are saying that last year, they managed to cut their greenhouse gas emissions by up to 19% and recycle up to 20% of wastewater from their operations. ESG, is it still a big thing? Is it still hot item, especially when times are bad, or are investors less concerned about ESG at this point?
Well, I think ESG is primarily for our foreign investors, as I think the local investors are still, at the end of the day, primarily concerned with what price are they buying good companies. So when it comes to ESG, I think the ACEN, for example, last year, which is, I think, an example of a good ESG company for the foreign investors, saw a significant uptick in foreign investors. So I think ESG still has a place to stay. But right now, when valuations are so cheap, I think we have to focus on good companies at good valuations.
All right. Speaking of valuations, just wanted to give you an update. The PSEI is now up, widening those gains, up by 0.5%, 31 points. We're at 58.63. Also for the peso firmed up at the open today. We're at 58.97 open from yesterday's close to 59. Adrian, we've come to the most exciting part of the conversation, the blind item. Talk to us about this stock that you're monitoring closely. You like this stock? Don't tell us, just describe. What do you have for us?
Well, I'll try not to give it away quickly, but I think this is a brand that everybody knows. We've grown accustomed to it since we were young kids. But maybe some clues to what happened. They reported a blowout second quarter earnings, boosted by the strong local performance. In fact, the company guided that the 3Q earnings of the foreign subsidiaries should be better and is actually trending higher. Valuations are quite cheap relative to its historical peaks. And I guess the greatest reason why we like it is It's one of the most significant beneficiaries of the face-to-face and reopening play, and I think it should do well in the medium term.
And by doing well, what sort of upside are we talking about?
We're looking at around 25% upside from prevailing prices. And the crazy part is, from our target price, it's actually still around 25% lower than its historical peak.
Okay, and what's the time horizon for that 25%? Is that 6 to 12 months or longer?
Well, that actually depends on the market conditions, but we believe when the market sees its blowout third quarter earnings, we should see a significant spike like we did during the second quarter earnings. So it's not out of the table to see it by the end of this year.
All right. Exciting times ahead for holders of the stock or those who want to get in. Adrian, pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for the insights this morning. Have a great week ahead.
Thanks, Mimi.
All right. Now, time to zip through the top headlines from major business papers from Business World. The Philippine ICT Department looking to partner with private companies to deploy fiber connection in rural communities. From Business Mirror, the Basis Conversion Development Authority says it has allocated a 5-hectare land in New Clark City for the construction of the proposed Virology Science and Technology Institute of the Philippines. And from the Wall Street Journal, Renault and Nissan confirmed they're discussing ways to reinforce their partnership, including the possibility of an investment by the Japanese company in the French car maker's new electric vehicle unit. Some relief for consumers as Meralco cuts its power rates for this month. Let's hear more from Alvin El Chico.
Meralco's overall charge is going down by 7 centavos per kilowatt hour for the October billing due to a slash in the charge allotted for renewable energy sources. That translates to a reduction of 15 to 36 pesos for residential customers. With the reduction, Meralco's overall charge for October is now lower than that of 2012, 2014, and 2018.
It is 7.5% lower. Why are we showing this? Because we just like to inform the public that actually Meralco has managed to lower the cost of electricity over the years.
Meralco says so far the decision of the Energy Regulatory Commission to deny the joint petition to raise rates filed by Meralco and 2 power plants owned by San Miguel Corporation has no impact yet on rates. The plants continue to deliver power to Meralco, but the country's biggest power utility maintains consumers are likely to be hit by higher electricity rates once SMC-controlled plants terminate its contracts with Meralco.
We believe that the best option, the least cost option for our customers would have been to preserve the 2 contracts that were subject of the petition. So that for us under our own simulations, that would have been the best option, the least cost option for our customers.
But there's bad news for motorists as oil firms implement a hefty upward price adjustment Tuesday. Diesel prices will increase by 6 pesos and 85 centavos, gasoline by 120, and kerosene by 350. The Energy Department confirms oil companies factored in premium, freight, and additional biofuels costs.
Halos 50 centavos para sa market premium tsaka sa freight, and then another parang 50 centavos per liter dahil sa CFE.
To save in fuel cost, some motorists had their vehicles full-tanked.
Sana wag naman ganun kagrabe ang taas. Sobra kawawa tao.
Lahat din po ng gastusin po, tumataas din po eh. Tipid-tipid po, kailangan po.
The DOE hopes international oil prices will stabilize soon to prevent a series of oil price hikes until the actual production cut of 2 million barrels per day begins in November. Alvin El Chico, ABS-CBN News.
U.S.-based economists Ben Bernanke, Douglas Diamond, and Philip Dybwig receive this year's Nobel Prize in Economics. Bernanke was chairman of the Federal Reserve from 2006 to 2014 and is now the Brookings Institute in Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, Diamond and Dybwig are both university professors. Bernanke's analysis of the Great Depression in the 1930s showed how bank runs were a major reason the crisis became severe and prolonged. Diamond and Dibwig's work, meanwhile, looked at how governments can help prevent bank runs by providing deposit insurance and acting as a lender of last resort. The organization says this year's laureates have improved the ability of banks to avoid both serious crises and expensive bailouts. And before we go, for those who tried to guess our blind item, this is the pick of Adrian Yu, 25%. He says, not going to be surprising. By the end of this year, after a blowout third quarter's earnings, at least that's the expectation, this stock is Jollibee Foods Corporation, a brand many of us grew up with. Do let's see if you got that. Do tweet us at ANC Alerts. In the meantime, that is it for the show. I'm Michelle Long. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and stay with ANC.
Mobility will be key to recovery because we have relaxed